Hey, do you want to know a secret that I didn't tell anybody ever?
No.
Well, when I was walking the dog I had before Dwayne, this dog named Mr. T, because when he was a puppy, his hair was sticking up like in a mohawk. And you know how ducks fly home in a V? It's like a V shape when they get home.
Basically, I'm gonna tell you about my
And I was walking
delusions,
my dog, and
by which I mean
I looked up and there's a big V above me, and there's all these ducks flying
be
back
honest,
to
I
the
don't
home.
even know what a delusion is, but
Can I please get a beer?
And right when
They're
they
just-
flew above me,
Can't practice.
things I know
I saw
are not true,
they crashed into a big
I can't
house.
practice, I can't.
The whole
but
V.
are very easy for me to convince myself
And then they
are.
put
It
it
ain't about
ground,
that.
and they
At
just
all.
kind of curled up.
It ain't about that at all.
You
You're sitting in here, you're supposed to be the franchise player. And yet here we are,
Have you ever
talking about
seen
you
a
missing
mistake in
practice.
nature?
So really, I'm
sitting
just
here,
testing
I'm
out
supposed to be
the
the
audio
franchise player.
Have you ever seen the
video
oh, man,
about
this
the
stinks.
camera.
We're talking about practice. You understand me? Practice. Not a game.
Not a game.
Seems pretty good.
Not a game. Not the game you go out there and die for.
Okay.
Not the game
Stop
that
that.
I go out there and die for
Right? Play every weekend like it's your last, right? No, we talking about practice, man.
and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man.
Practice. You know you're supposed to be out there. You know you're supposed to lead by example. You just shoving that all aside.
I know I'm supposed to be there. I know I'm supposed to lead by example. I know that. And I'm not shoving it aside.
So here we are, Jamie. We're talking about practice. Not a game. Not the game. We're talking about practice.
We're talking about practice, man. We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice. We ain't talking about the game. We're talking about practice, man.
That position. The problem if you're an
I
existing
mentioned
studio
last time, I
is
think,
you're not just paying
not
extra
really knowing
on a per subscriber basis for content. You're
what
not
that
getting
means,
paid extra
delusions.
by everyone else to sell your
So,
content. And
I'm gonna
Sony is
start
actually
by
very underrated
looking
in this
that up
regard.
so
Where
that we
Sony,
can
they just cut
all
a
be
deal
on
with
the same
Netflix a
page
little bit
about
ago,
what I'm
and
talking
they also
about.
got a deal with Disney. So they're keeping the window where like the first run on
Also
streaming will be on
experimenting
Netflix
with
and the second run will be on Disney, and they're double
having
dipping on
something
all their
playing in
content,
the background
and their
so that
content's like gold. Because
one,
all
you
these
can't hear
streaming
me.
services need it, and so not only is Sony not
Two,
wasting tons
I
of money
can't
on
hear myself.
buying content, they're making tons of money by selling content and doing what they're good at. They're good at making content. They're not good at running a customer service business. They're not good at marketing, and that's the other mistake all these studios are making. And so they're going to come back at some point. I wrote a couple years ago that Netflix is going to have sort of a rough few years, but they're going to actually come out of this far stronger. And I think that's exactly what's happening. Where, yeah, all this competition
Characterized
they're
by
paying more
or
for content
holding
they would like to,
idiosyncratic
and
beliefs
people's
or
attention's
impressions
divided.
that are contradicted by reality
at
or
some
rational
point,
argument.
These folks are going to come
Typically
to their
as a
senses,
symptom
just
of
like
mental
AT&T
disorder.
did. Realize this is a massive waste of money,
Based
not just
on
in what
or
you're
having
spending, but
faulty
in what you're not
judgment
making.
mistaken.
And then they're going to start selling to Netflix again, and then Netflix is going to be is going to be great.
Well, and then you have Amazon and Apple who tried to get in the content thing, but they kind of half-assed tried to get in. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
where it's
yeah.
like, yeah, we're doing content, but yeah, you're doing some content.
Idiosyncratic belief
Netflix,
or impression
you look
that
at what they
is
did,
firmly
which is
maintained
really
despite
shrewd, and
being
you've written a ton about it, but,
contradicted
you know,
by
they-
what is
they-
generally
they
accepted
banked
as
other
reality
people's content
or
for
rational
multiple years.
argument.
Then they really started
Typically a
making their
symptom
own.
of mental disorder.
And by the time everybody realized what was happening,
So yeah, I guess
you
technically,
know, they had this
not
massive
even
lead. I
technically,
think
but literally,
Amazon's trying to catch up. They're going to spend $9 billion on the
They
MGM
are
library, which seems like it's
probably
maybe
delusions.
twice as much. The
Except that
experts
it's
were
not
saying,
firmly
as,
maintained.
You know, and it's like this belated catch-up game where like, let's
It's
just
more
throw money
like
at
just
it. It's like
always
watching an
there
NBA
in the
team
back
be
of
like,
my head,
we
depending
need a center.
on
Let's throw money at Andrew Bogut, and they just kind of
what
go. So it
situation
just
I'm
seems
in,
like
you
Amazon
know.
and Apple
If
can
I'm
always
looking at an
rely on
animal,
the deep checkbooks to
the
Yeah,
find out
animal
what they need.
delusion is there.
Yeah, they have lots
you
of
know?
money, which always helps. The other
If
thing is,
I'm
given you think about Amazon's
anywhere
business,
near
they want you to
cars,
subscribe to Prime.
the
Subscribe to
traffic
Prime, you
delusion
spend more
is
money.
there.
Like you just use Amazon as your default for shopping, and anyone can, think about just the U.S.
You
Anyone
know,
can
if I'm
subscribe
in a
to
new
Prime.
house
Anyone,
or
it's like
any
a service that's available
unfamiliar
to everyone, and it's available to everyone
living
in not in a
situation,
zero-sum way. In a win-win way, you can shop on
product
local
placement
retailer,
delusion
and you can
is
also
there.
shop on Amazon. And so in that
But they're not
sense,
firmly
them
maintained
acquiring
necessarily,
content that
and
makes their service more
it's just
attractive
there. While I know
aligns
that
in a
it's
way that AT&T, where they were in a
delusional,
zero-sum
so-
game with Verizon and T-Mobile, it never made
I don't
sense to
know.
have differentiated content because that content needed to
regardless,
be
I
everywhere.
just
So whereas
wanted
Amazon
to
can
get
credibly
that out of the
say,
way.
oh, yeah, we're
I
going to
also
acquire
mentioned
sophisticated
something about
content
the
that's gonna
quality
be available to the entire
of the
market
video
and is
audio,
going to accrue to other
and
businesses. Now, you can make the case it's still too much and they're wasted too much money on
ultimately,
it, but at least it is
I decided
a business
that doesn't
argument
matter.
that makes sense given the nature of
worst
the business
case
they're trying to drive,
scenario
unlike
is
AT&T, which
I
you know,
need it to be
it honestly never
better
makes sense at
quality
all.
than it
That's
is, but
not
that would
for a single
actually be a
moment.
good thing because
Can we do merger speed round? Most likely merger for you.
You
What's
know.
the next one?
there's a reason for
Oh,
me to
Everyone
need
says
it to be
Comcast and Universal.
higher
Yeah,
quality
well, I
than
think
it
in the
is.
entertainment industry,
Best case scenario, no one ever
Comcast,
sees or hears
Universal,
this, and I
will also
figure it
say
all out
Viacom,
without
are both sort of just sitting out there. Universal
having to go
particularly
this
is in a
route,
pretty
but
weak position. I think that
we'll
makes
see.
a lot of sense. To
Anyway, this
combine
first
with
episode is going to be a little bit of
Discovery bit. Obviously, I think
background,
spin off of the news
history,
channels because there will be some overlap there. But to
just
me, that
kind of
that's
getting
what
you on the
sort of
same
makes the most
page
sense.
of
Discovery
like
and
how
Time
we
Warner
got to this point,
critically don't have a broadcast network.
and then I'll go
And I
into
still
the
think it'd be
individual
very difficult
delusions
to
in later
combine
episodes.
CBS and NBC, for example, or ABC or whatever. So the
So,
fact that they don't, to me, makes that the most obvious.
let's
sort of,
cut it there.
Even if even if it's truncated, I guess.
So like,
But I
I
would
could
be.
collect footage all day. That's gonna be
It seems
easy.
like it would be the biggest event
This is the
since
hard
the
part,
Big Bang.
trying to
as far as any
describe
human is
these
considered.
delusions
I
in
guess I would
a
want to
way
see what
that
it's like. I would want to see how people react.
makes sense. And
I-
just
I'd
talking
be-
in
I'd be
general.
curious
I don't like
what I
talking
would
as it
think
is,
about,
so talking to
like what
myself.
I'd be thinking about.
Well, we
when
used
I
to think
realized-
about this during the 80s, right?
You
When
know,
it
is
seemed very possible that Russia and
not
America might just blow each other up.
My
Used to think
style,
a lot
my
about, wow, what
thing.
would happen? How much notice would
especially
we have
when
before we all blew
you
up?
know,
Be
This is
5
an
minutes?
This is an
You know,
interesting
it's hard
thing.
enough
I'm
driving
49
around.
and you're 50.
are
I'm
they
51.
listening to
51.
the
Okay,
thoughts?
2 years.
You know, and now I'm
But
just
even those 2 years make a
broadcasting
big
it out
difference
to
on this issue.
the world.
Because by the
you know?
time, like,
So,
say,
1 4 0
thing, but you're not sure.
So we
if they
said
actually
this
have any
first
money.
episode was going to be
Oh, no, well, I mean, they have
background.
money.
So
They're currently the highest.
I guess we should probably start back in 1999, give or
I'm
take,
saying we
20
don't know.
20 years
In
ago.
the age of the symbolism, I'm fascinated by
20,
it. I don't know
21
if this is
years ago,
accurate, but I'm
22
saying it
years
just
ago.
feels accurate. As Miami becomes
the aliens are fucking great.
No, I know.
Superman's great.
But
E.T.
then-
was nice.
But then
Okay,
when we did the blockbusters in the 90s, it was like, what if the aliens weren't nice?
Yeah.
And then it
Well,
flipped,
yeah.
and it's like, all right, now the aliens are declaring war on
So
us.
it's
And that became
1999.
a cottage industry. But
I'm
aliens have been in our life in this pop culture way,
12,
and it just seemed
13,
like that's what they were
early
going to be,
10s.
like this go-to for pop culture
And
stuff that people love. I never
all
thought
of a
we would
sudden,
actually have
across
to
the
deal with
country,
them.
there's a
Well,
huge
I guess I didn't
It's like,
think you'd have
no,
to.
they're-
yo-yo
they're
boom.
actually, we have to like come up with
Where-
a plan for the weird aliens that are flying around.
for
now.
whatever reason.
But
Yo-yos
it
are the
seems as
biggest
though,
thing
like, I
with
mean, I don't know.
kids
This
my
might be
age.
like
Right.
I often say this, how like, although my politics are all over the place, I feel like in some ways I'm kind of fundamentally.
Most of you, if you're
conservative
watching
person,
this,
and I kind of
you're
want things
probably
to stay as they are. I'm
Yeah.
very hesitant about.
familiar
I'm
with
just, it
yo-yos
seems
today, but
like life is changing faster than I
for those
can
of you who are not,
accept it all the time. So by that argument, I
probably
should not
picture
want it.
yo-yo.
Because if aliens suddenly enter
Something
into
like
our
this.
world, it's going to be some significant changes. We're gonna have to, I have some weird conversations. However, I guess part of me,
Maybe wood,
does want-
maybe plastic, probably in this shape,
like,
but
if
maybe
there are aliens, I want them to show up in my lifetime. Like if
I don't know.
that
You'd
can
be
happen,
disappointed if they came.
I should not want aliens. Because if aliens suddenly enter into our world, it's going to be some significant changes. We're gonna have to,
So a couple
I have some
interesting
weird
facts,
conversations.
or not,
However, I guess part of
maybe
me
not interesting, maybe
does
not facts.
want.
They say
like,
that the
if there
yo-yo
are
is
aliens,
the
I want
oldest
them to show up in my
toy,
lifetime. Like,
second oldest toy.
if
I'm
that
not
can
sure
be
what the oldest would
disappointed
be,
if
but
they
it's
came
one of the
100 years
oldest
Well,
toys ever
I
made.
guess I would
or
be
invented
like it
or
would
whatever.
be.
And they also say that
I think about this
it
a
was
lot. Like, a guy
originally
died the
a
day
weapon.
before 9/11 or
So,
Like, you know, and it's like it's interesting.
you throw it
to-
at
it'd
somebody,
be like, I
hits
guess this
them
is
in the
like sort
head,
of the larger question.
in theory, you can bring it
Let's
back to you.
say
Like I
the
said, I don't know if
world
either
is
of those are
going to
true,
end.
but
and it
that's
can
what they
end
say.
when you're 80.
Of course, that's
5 years
hundreds
after your death.
or thousands of years ago.
What do you want? And here, Russia would be willing
So the plan
to
was
destroy itself.
to
like
basically
it seems
only
like
do
stakes are
the
obviously too high.
audio,
In fact,
either in my
remember,
car
I think I was in
or
6th grade because my dad was very
not
proud
out
of
in
this.
the open. Like
I
I said,
wrote something in 6th grade about
bad
how
enough that I'm just giving
the
it all
only
to
problem would be as if
something
Syria got
that's
a nuclear weapon.
literally I know is
I don't think I
recording
knew
me
anything
because
about Syria in 6th
set
grade.
it up
I'm
to
sure I
record me.
couldn't have found it on the map. I have no idea
Talking
what
to
Newsweek
myself
article I
or
saw or something that prompted
all of
me to do
you
this. So I never worried
just
about
out there
the end of the world.
is
But like, I found that people just a
that
few
said,
years older than me really did.
I
I
might
think that
try
it was,
to
you know,
explain some of this
like the
on
first
location
couple of
so
years
you have
of the Reagan
something
administration, I
other
think
than just my voice.
made people kind of like seem scary. But you had to be aware of what was happening.
Miami, while representing us, when David Beckham initially unveiled Inter Miami, like they were granted expansion,
So where did we
they
leave
released
off?
a video. Lionel Messi said, "Call me at some point. I might be interested." So Inter Miami has always had this possibility. They just have yet to execute on any of these big stars.
And that happens all the time. Well, it happens. I think anybody who's ever had a story done on them said that. Where it's like that you know, that you can't tell if the person is saying this kind of off the cuff, or if they're saying this, sort of half jokingly, or if they're talking about a whole bunch of things, and this is one thing they're also mentioning. It does sort of give this the documentary has the advantage of seeing the person say it, and you get a real sense of like how they meant it.
Yeah. All right, we talked enough about sports. It's time. America's on pins and needles. I can't believe it took an hour to get here. UFOs are real. I've been waiting to talk to you on this podcast. I've deliberately ignored talking to anybody else. We've done a lot of conspiracy stuff over the years on pods. I think that Malaysian flight went down. I think we did an emergency podcast. You love this stuff as much as I do. Under the radar the last year, so much shit was going over the last years. The Pentagon and everybody else has basically just admitted that UFOs exist, and
The world is going to end. And it can end when you're 80 or 5 years after your death. What do you want? And here's the one thing. It will not be a painful end. So it won't be like you're burned. You won't be burned alive. It's not like the aliens are going to come and cover you in acid. You're not going to be eaten by zombies. The world will end.
So we're in the late
Stunningly
90s, and
painlessly.
yo-yos are the biggest thing
When you're 80,
ever,
and you can see it.
I'm in my early
Or
10s.
you can die, and 5 years
And-
later it will happen. And you'll never have to experience it.
I get into it, you know.
I probably
like
want to not
everybody.
experience it.
I'd want it. I'd
You
want to
want
see
it.
it.
So you're like Dreyfus.